In part 1, we presented some of the history of the School of the Americas, a training center for Latin American soldiers and military leaders that is run by the U.S. Pentagon out of Fort Benning, Georgia. But what has the school been up to in recent years? In December of 2000, the Pentagon closed it down. But according to Vera Leone from School of the Americas Watch, an organization that seeks to monitor the school's activities, the doors weren't closed for very long.
The School of the Americas, as it was named in 1946, closed in December of 2000. And in January 2001, the Western Hemisphere Institute for Security Cooperation opened, which is a new name, but it's the same institution. It's the same professors, the same students, the same classes, the same facilities. And we are seeing the same violence come out of the school, although since 2003, the Pentagon has classified the names of the graduates and the instructors of the school, so we are not able to track the human rights violations. But up until that point, we were able to track and we were able to prove, yes, the soldiers are still committing human rights violations. These days, the most soldiers come from Colombia and Mexico, and also Chile. This is where you'll find a lot of state repression and a lot of violence against their own people.
Currently, it is the Colombian military that provides the school with most of its students. And in October of last year, Colombia was forced to fire 27 army officers, including 4 generals and 3 colonels, upon revelations that the military was murdering civilians and reporting them as dead rebels in order to boost body counts. 11 of the officers charged had been trained at the School of the Americas before the Pentagon began classifying names in 2003. 1 week later, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Navi Pillay, concluded her fact-finding mission by announcing that the problem went deeper than a few bad officers.
We are observing and keeping a record of the number of extrajudicial killings, and it does appear to be systematic and widespread in my view.
The head of the army at that time, General Mario Montoya, had championed a policy whereby promotions were tied to body counts. He resigned 4 days after the UN announcement. General Montoya both studied and taught at the School of the Americas. While the Pentagon claims that the training of Colombian soldiers is part of the war on drugs, testimony from Joseph Blair, a former instructor at the School of the Americas, shows that far from waging a war on drugs, during his time there, the school actually played an important role in the industry.
In the time I spent at the School of the Americas, it was common knowledge to Army officers that it was the best place a Latin American officer could go to launder his drug money, or launder any other money he misappropriated in his own country from illegal operations. I routinely took the Latin American Army faculty members and their students to the 2 U.S. banks on Fort Benning, where the School of the Americas is located. The Latin American military would routinely bring, on average, from $25,000 to $35,000 cash in their pockets. Clearly, the money was drug money.
Blair adds that the U.S. military used the contact with foreign officers to push its own business.
The School of the Americas is set up to teach courses paid for by American foreign aid money, connected with foreign military sales programs. Military assistance programs where we in fact are in the business of selling military hardware to Latin America. And the United States continues to be the largest arms supplier in the world. It's big business. All of Latin America is running around now with M16 rifles.
According to Pablo Ruiz, who came to Washington from his home in Santiago, Chile to demand the school be shut down, Colombia isn't the only country feeling the effects of the school's doctrine.
Hoy día en Chile, uno de los más afectados por la represión policial es el pueblo mapuche. Ellos exigen el derecho a la tierra, el derecho a que respeten su forma de vida, su cultura. Sin embargo, la respuesta del gobierno no es sentarse a conversar con ellos, no es buscar caminos para darle a este pueblo originario una salida a sus peticiones, sino la única forma es represión. Actualmente hay más de una docena de presos políticos mapuche en el sur de Chile, y eso es un escándalo.
There has been consistent pressure from inside the U.S. to close the School of the Americas, including an annual November protest in which thousands gather to read the names of those murdered or disappeared by the school's graduates, and a select few cross onto the school's property, whereupon they are detained and often handed lengthy prison sentences. Vera was one of those people.
I trespassed on Fort Benning during a protest in 2002, and in 2003 I spent 6 months in prison, and this was while I was a student organizer in North Carolina, and it was a very powerful experience to connect to the people who are targeted by state violence in the U.S., people who are in prison, incarcerated because of the war on drugs.
While many are optimistic that the school will be shut down, for members of the School of the Americas Watch, closing the school is just the beginning of their work.
After we close the school, there's a lot of work to do in having a truth commission for finding out all we can about the human rights abuses that came from this place, and putting an end to impunity in countries like Chile and Colombia and other places. There is another military training school, a police training school in El Salvador called the ILEA, the International Law Enforcement Academy, and once the SOA closes, this will be another way for the U.S. to maintain its dominance over Latin America, and so that has to go also.
Nosotros esperamos este año cerrar la Escuela de la América. Si logramos el objetivo lo vamos a celebrar, pero vamos a seguir trabajando. Tenemos en nuestra mirada ILEAs, sabemos que policías chilenos van a El Salvador y se están preparando. Hace poco aparecieron unas fotos de estudiantes de ILEAs en una plaza en San Salvador, iban pintados como si fueran militares. ¿Cómo es posible eso? ¿Son policías, son militares? O sea, ¿qué está promoviendo ILEA? ¿Que los policías actúen con la brutalidad de un militar? Nos preocupa. Hoy día tenemos los ojos centrados en la Escuela de la América. La queremos cerrar, la debemos cerrar. Pero en América Latina hay varias bases militares. Hay presencia de soldados de Estados Unidos que van hasta los mismos territorios a capacitar gente, que también es una cosa que tenemos presente. O sea, la Escuela de la América es un símbolo, pero después de eso vamos a seguir profundizando para que ojalá Estados Unidos suspenda todo tipo de intervención militar en América Latina.